What is going on, everyone? This is your boy, Nathan Crankfield, another episode of Seeking Excellence. And this week, we are talking about a topic that if you follow me on Instagram, you've seen me talking about a good bit recently. But we're going to be talking about dressing for mass, but we're going to get a lot beyond that. This isn't just about not wearing shorts to Sunday mass, but it's been very interesting talking about that for the last couple of weeks and seeing the feedback and the response that I've gotten from people has been very eye-opening, very concerning, troubling in certain ways. And I want to get into this. And it was a great day to do it because I decided I had a really important work meeting today. We're trying to close our biggest deal ever. And so broke out the sports jacket. And if you know me, you know I love me a good sports jacket. I love dressing like this. And I'm going to talk about why I like dressing like this. I'm going to talk about why I think men should step it up a little bit. And I want to just share before I get into my outline for today, man. I was at an event at my parish last night. To say taken aback by some of the things that these young single guys wear out in public at a gathering of mostly young Catholics, where you're actively seeking, not all of them, but I know some personally, you're actively seeking out a girlfriend, a potential spouse, and I'm talking about showing up in raggedy gym shorts. And the thing that I wish that people would understand is when I'm challenging guys on this, and when I see a guy, I think a lot of times, when I've been talking about this, it's like I'll have guys at my parish or just guys that I know, they're like, oh, you've been judging me or whatever. And I'm like, I don't judge you. And when I see a guy just show up kind of like disheveled looking and just dressed like a boy, in my opinion, and just not knowing what to do and not really caring or trying with effort in their appearance, like I don't judge and say, oh, this guy sucks. I mean, I probably say like I probably wouldn't be best friends with this guy. Even though that's not always the case. But my main thing is like I just feel compassion. I feel like a lot of guys just don't know what to do, and that's been something that a lot of the things that I talk about when I'm talking about standards and ideals, right? The same thing kind of goes with living on one income, right? It's not good to just talk about that as an ideal and not actually lay out certain things that at least I've done and share my experience of how I've gotten to that point, right? It's a difficult thing. It's a challenging thing, but we have to lay out some of those practicals. But guys, when I show up to a parish event, a young adult event, and I see a man who I know is single, who I know desperately wants a wife, and he's in disheveled gym shorts or just cargo shorts and like a graphic t-shirt. And then I see some of my other homies who are single showing up fresh. They look great. They look, hair's cut, beards either trimmed or it's, groomed. And they have like a nice shirt on, some nice pants, or at least some nice shorts, whatever it is, some nice shoes. They put in effort. They didn't show up to show up single at an event wearing something that I can't even fathom wearing out of the house. I wouldn't even one guy that I know was in an outfit, if you can even call it that, in clothes that legitimately I wouldn't wear at home. And I'm just like, and that's not, to me, it's not. A lot of times the other pushback that I get, I'm going to get into some of the biggest pushback that I've gotten over the last few weeks. It's not a money thing. It's not about having a lot of money and being rich or wealthy. We are not living in abundance every month, right? It is something I prioritize, especially as I've been building out my wardrobe more and more. But I tried to explain to people, this jacket that I'm wearing right now was $200 on Macy's. Now, I know my size now, and so I buy a good size that fits, $200 sports jacket, and I can wear this all the time. I would wear this every Sunday if it was the only sports jacket I had. This and some khaki pants and a nice shirt. It doesn't take a ton of money to make it work, right? You can find them at Macy's or I have another one that's getting tailored right now. The tailorings cost almost as much as the jacket did. I had another blue sports jacket that I owned from Macy's for years. It was a polo one, actually, that was $100. And then this other one that I just got was at Nordstrom Rack, and I got it for $100 as well. And so you can find stuff that's not that expensive. It's not an expense thing. You don't have to have a ton of money. And we can work and talk in some of the details of that. But I wanted to just start with 1 Corinthians 13. Everybody knows this chapter of the Bible, mostly from your weddings, right? We hear this at weddings all the time. 1 Corinthians 13. It's the love is patient, love is kind, love is not envious or boastful or arrogant, and all these things. It bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things. What we don't often get to is 1 Corinthians 13:11. In 1 Corinthians 13:11, Chris Quinn with the wisdom here. You can just get a few combos of some suits that are just a few $100s, and you can make it happen. You guys are spending money on much dumber stuff than nice clothes. 1 Corinthians 13:11 says, when I was a child, I spoke like a child, I thought like a child, I reasoned like a child, When I became an adult, I put an end to childish ways. The reason why I want to start with that scripture verse, and I actually have some good content from the saints. You guys know my spiritual director, you know him well, St. Francis de Sales. That's my dude. And just so happened that today I'm going through like a chapter a day, sometimes two. Today's chapter was propriety in dress. And so I was like, all right, today's my day to record for sure. St. Francis is talking to me. The reason why I want to talk about that is because my bigger theme that has come out with talking about this recently is not just the fact that men need to dress nicer. There's benefits to you dressing nicer personally, spiritually, and just communally and societally. But it's also just the fact that dress represents a deeper problem we have in our society, which is the fact that we have a lot of boys and we don't have a lot of men. And I say that as somebody who took a while myself to mature. I say that as someone who did not have an abundance of positive male role models in my life, especially when I was a young kid and a teenager. I remember dressing with my pants hanging off my ass when I was a preteen and into my early teenage years because I thought that was cool. With his super baggy clothes, I looked like an absolute jackass. But that was what all the men in my life did, or not all the men, but a lot of the men, especially on my dad's side, that's how they dressed. And so that's what I did. And I thought it was cool, and it's not. And I think just having a man who can speak to your life, and why I want to speak to all of you guys today, and for women, I know a lot of you feel convicted about this because of the reel that I shared last week about, the one that was pretty funny. And I actually ended up talking to the couple that was in the reel, both the wife and the husband, which was hilarious. But it was this reel, and it's a trend that's going on, right? Where it's like what the wife packs for vacation, and it's all these nice dresses, and they're doing their hair and all these things. And then the husband's just every day in like shorts and a graphic t-shirt or sports t-shirt or whatever it might be. And that happens all the time. And that's something that's been really convicting to me because I used to do this. Like she would want to look so nice, and she would spend time, and she would get a dress, and she would do her hair, and she would, put her makeup on and pick out her shoes carefully. And I would just look like an idiot. And I would just wear a Colorado Avalanche t-shirt and jeans or shorts. And it was just like, dude, what are you doing? You look like an idiot next to your woman. And that's not what she wants. And I know deep down, because I knew this, it's not what the guy wants either. It's not good for anybody. It's not good for your son to see that your wife puts in a ton of effort and you don't. This is the Homer Simpson effect. We get upset about this a lot of times. And you guys know this, especially the men who are listening. I'm a big advocate and defender of men. But this is an area that a lot of us suck at. And I was one of them. But this is where I complain about this Homer Simpson effect where women a lot of times today think that men are useless, they're stupid, they're sloppy. And then we do exactly that. We don't know anything about anything, right? I've been sharing a lot about finances lately. There's a lot of men who aren't financially leading their homes, whether that's even not even making the most money, but even just being the financial manager of your home, painting a vision, casting a vision, having a plan for your future and your finances. We often don't do that. We often let our physique go and just get sloppy once we're married, or even a lot of times before. And we don't care about anything. We don't spiritually lead. And it's like a lot of guys do suck. Now, there's a lot of women have their own problems, but I feel more and more convicted in my content that similar to Chris Quinn, who I'm glad is here. He had this great conversion. I actually just had not conversion, but realization lately, his kind of change in content to Gen Z. I felt a very similar call recently, but mainly for young men. And so that's why a lot of my content, that's who I speak more directly to. And it's not my job to fix the women, right? There's problems within the feminine movement and within Catholic women, and there's a lot of great Catholic women out there, and there's problems within it. And I hope that we can solve those, and I hope that some of the things I do speaks to that and helps that. But my job is to help the guys. That's what I'm called to do. That's what I was created for. That's why I went through all the things that I've gone through, right? And so when I go to something like the event last night and I just see that, I see these guys who have let themselves, young single dudes, let themselves go physically, show up wearing whatever they want. Now, mind you, the one friend who's specifically coming to mind, and I'm giving this as a warning. I hope a lot of the young guys will listen to this or hear this, because next time I see you and I know you and you listen to my podcast and you show up to an event dressed like this, I'm roasting you. I almost roasted a few guys last night, but I chose peace instead of violence. And next time I'm not going to. So this is the fair warning to everyone. Next gathering at the grotto or candlelight mass, do not show up just like a bum. And if you know other guys who did that, I suggest you send this to them, because I'm not just saving that for my friends. I'm cooking every dude that shows up to my parish dressed like a bum next time, especially if you're single. I think you shouldn't do it either way, but I just can't fathom being single and dressed like that. It's just mind-blowing to me. But we have to have standards. We have to challenge each other. We have to sit here and say, this isn't good. So I see the one guy who's coming to mind while I'm thinking about this. I'm talking to these three women. I'm sitting there standing in line. Emily didn't think she wanted to eat. We had the In-N-Out truck last night at Lord's. It was awesome. Jim Beckman gave a talk. I'm in line. The line's super long for In-N-Out truck. And I meet these three women. Now, I met them previously at YCP, and they saw me speak at YCP. Now, imagine this for me. I'm a Catholic speaker, a podcaster. I work for Hallow. I represent my family. I represent, this idea of excellence. And so I don't more go out of the house in something I'm not proud to be wearing, right? So I'm going to intentionally leave the house, which I should do all the time. This shouldn't be something that should be recent, right? The excellence guy should be doing that all the time. But I'm going to intentionally leave the house on something I'm proud in that I feel good about. And I'm sitting here talking to these three ladies. All three of them are single. They're friends. They're there together. And we're just chatting. Two of them had come to my YCP talk last year. I see, you just notice that the women that are there did their hair. They put their makeup on. They picked out a nice dress to wear or a cute outfit that they're going to wear. And then I see the single guys that I'm just like, what? Why would any of these women want to date or be interested in you if this is how you present yourself to the world? Now, a lot of you ladies out there have just not cared about that. Emily used to send me slight challenges and encouragement sometimes to say, oh, why don't you wear this instead? And I was like, oh, that's a good idea. But it took me some time. And truly, one of the biggest things that came to me or that helped me with this process is the fact that I had a son. I think becoming a father, a lot of guys just become dads and dress like dads, which I think is not the move. But it does help you to take yourself a little bit more seriously, right? You're now somebody's father, which is a pretty freaking big deal, right? You're somebody's dad. Being a husband is the same thing, right? Where you kind of have this next level of responsibility. But I find a lot of men who stay in that period too long intentionally, where they're just a husband, not a father, intentionally waiting. A lot of times it is childishness, and there's a childish aspect to it. Now, if you're struggling with infertility or whatever, that's a totally different ballgame. But I'm talking about men who get married intentionally waiting to have kids. Oftentimes there's a boyish aspect to that, right? Because you're doing something in marriage that is saying yes to children and being open to life, and you're rejecting that. You want to have things your way, which is a childish thing, right? Instead of wanting to have things God's way or wanting to prefer other people over yourself, you want to have things your way. And that's childish and it's boyish. And that's exactly what ends up happening here. And that's what I'm talking about with this dress stuff. It's more of a reflection of who you are as a person. Not always, but a lot of times. And so this is what a lot of people end up saying to me was, oh, well, you can become really vain. Maybe you start wearing a suit to mass or whatever. You start to like think you're better than other people. Yeah, that's possible, but you can become vain in anything. I used to dress like an asshat and still was prideful and judgmental of other people. Like you don't this isn't the only route to that, right? Humility is a virtue in and of itself. You dressing nicer for things is not going to make you inherently more prideful. The other thing that I wanted to address that really drove me crazy on LinkedIn and Instagram as I was posting about this, that's a plug there. If you don't follow me on LinkedIn, you should, because I post different content on there and I love posting on LinkedIn. The other thing that drives me nuts is this assumption that you're judging other people just because you dress nicely. And it's like, I'm not going around judging other people. I am responsible for me. And I'm not responsible for how what I do necessarily makes other people feel. Now, there's an awareness to that. But if some guy's showing up just like a bum, I'm not going to meet him down there. Right? There's a certain point where we as men, especially as husbands and fathers in the parish, should set the standard for the parish. That's what leadership does, right? When you're a leader, you set the standard in something and you show people what's supposed to happen and how you're supposed to show up to something, what this event means, right? And our appearance, how we show up, showing up on time, showing up ready and engaged makes all the difference in this, right? It's very, very important. So that one really drives me crazy. This idea that you can become vain. One of my hottest takes in this, or my strongest take, I should say, is that I understand if you think that you're going to become vain and judgmental if you wear a suit and tie every Sunday, sure. That in no way debunks or rebuttals or rebukes my claim that you shouldn't wear shorts to mass, right? Just because if you go a 10 out of 10 every week, you might start feeling prideful or vain or judging other people, does not mean you should have no floor. There's never a reason to have no floor in any area of life that actually matters or is important. You should always have some type of a minimum for yourself. And to me, I think a reasonable minimum for all men across almost all times and places, at least for the majority of Sundays in a year, so we're talking 40 Sundays out of the year, it should be in pants. I think it should be 52 Sundays out of the year, but I know a lot of you guys are soft and you want to talk about how it's hot and it's this and it's that. I live in Florida and it's like, yeah, in Africa and in South America, in Haiti, yes, they're all wearing pants, but you in Georgia, you get the excuse because you have it so hard. Even though those people are never in air conditioning and you're only not in air conditioning walking from your car, your house to your car and your car to your church. Yes, you can be the exception because you gentle soul, you get to wear shorts, and the other men around the entire freaking world that have no air conditioning, that have to work 8 days a week, that have none of the luxuries that you have, they'll do it. They'll walk to church in their pants in the blistering heat. But you, my friend, you be the exception. So I'll drop it down for you because 52 weeks is too hard. We'll drop it down to 40. We'll say 40 weeks out of the year if you're in Florida in the Southeast, you can wear pants. And people will still push back on that because people will say things like, well, God doesn't care what you wear. And at least they're just showing up. I'm just glad they're coming. I don't want anybody to have a barrier in between them and coming to church. That's a good sentiment. And you know what's interesting about that? And this is probably going to make some people mad, is that sentiment only comes from women. And this is why. And this is why there's complementarity of the sexes. Because first and foremost, women, if I'm talking to men and challenging men, I'm like always perplexed. Like I see women talking to women. I see people in the same sex community talking to the same sex community, same sex attracted, whatever, LGBT community, whatever it might be. Like there's times to just like stay in your lane. And I have to do that myself sometimes if I see women correcting women or coaching women or whatever it is. And I see stuff online all the time for women talking to women that I don't agree with. But guess what? That's not really my spot. It doesn't mean you can't comment. It doesn't mean you can't make things. I appreciate the DMs and all that stuff. But some of these women who will come in and argue with me about standards for men based on an emotional plea, right? Or something that's just softer, saying that like, well, I don't want a man to feel like, he can't come, or that like there's a barrier in between. Like, I don't care what he feels. We should let him know, because of the fact that there's standards to get into heaven. We should let him know that we also have, as a community of men here at our church, we have standards for ourselves as well. And when we're celebrating the holy sacrifice of the Mass, we try to dress up a little bit nicer than we would if we were just going to like the park, as Beth said here, or if we were just going, on a picnic, or if I'm just playing with my son in my basement. I try to dress up a little bit differently when I'm going to see the King of the universe than when I'm just jackassing around the house. And if you find that too difficult, the reality is this: to a man out there, let me speak directly to you. If you're a man out there and you feel like, if I felt like I had to wear pants to Mass, like I just feel like that would be too much for me, then this Christian life, this isn't for you. If that aspect of the cross of Christian masculinity, having to wear pants for 2 hours on Sunday morning, if that is too much for you, this probably ain't for you. Because what we don't like to get into with people, especially too early on, is that like our church, we have martyrs, we have people who died for the faith, people who were tortured. God's going to ask you to stop things like watching pornography, like stop sleeping with your girlfriend, like stop just, being a fool, getting drunk on weekends, all these other things. And I'm telling you, as somebody who's done all of those things in the past and had to give all of those things up to follow Christ. And then he's going to ask you to get married and commit yourself to one woman over time, and submit your life to her needs and your children's needs and all of that, and work incredibly hard to provide for them, make sacrifices, give up everything that you want for the sake of your family. As somebody who's done that entire list, right, had to like reject pornography, reject fornication, reject all these different things. Wearing pants to Mass doesn't make the list. Right? If you had to give me a top 100 things about being difficult about being a Christian man, wearing pants for 2 hours on Sunday does not make my top 1,000 probably. And so if that is too much for you, if the 1,025th thing is too hard for you, then you're probably not even ready to start coming to Mass, because you're not even in a place where you really are even serious about this. And if you don't care enough to just show up decent to church, then you're not like we have to stop this watered down, very Protestant mindset of like, you just need to make this profession of faith and you get to go to heaven and enjoy all of eternal gladness forever and all of the great goodness of heaven just because you said the Jesus prayer after Mass. We don't believe that. We believe that there's a lot of suffering and death to self and all of these things. And we don't have to lead with the crucifixion and martyrdom, but we also can say, hey, love that you have this seed planted in you. Love that you want to come. just so you know, what I'm going to wear on Sunday is going to be this. And I expect, just like any good leader, I talk about this all the time when I'm speaking to leaders. They used to tell us this in the Army. Your followers will do half of what you do right and double what you do wrong. And so that means for me, as a man who's leading something here with seeking excellence and trying to lead something, if I was leading a men's group, whatever it is, that's a good rule of thumb to have. Now, I'm not responsible for the bad decisions of other people, but if it's a great standard and challenge for me as a man to say, okay, if my son, just to be, and I'm being totally real with you guys on this. Let's say if my son is going to look at women lustfully double as much as I'm going to, right? And he's going to dress half as nice as I will to mass. What do I want that to look like? He's going to do half the charitable works that I do. He's going to be half as generous as me. Now, that's not true. I hope that he'll be a better man than I am because he's going to have me raising him versus the experience that I had growing up. But it's a good challenge for yourself to think about. If the people that you're in charge of, the people that you influence, do half of what you do right and double what you do wrong, what would their life look like? If they prayed half as much as you did. For a lot of guys out there, the people will be praying 2 minutes a day because they're doing 3 Bless Us, O Lords and bedtime prayer. And so when you're thinking about that, when you have no standards for yourself, we underestimate the fact that we as men are called to be leaders. And if you're going to be leaders, that means that even if I'm inviting somebody else to mass, I don't have to say, hey, first of all, I don't know what dumbass doesn't have pants. So I don't know why that's such a difficult, mind-blowing standard to have. But I can at least say to somebody that I'm inviting to mass, hey, this is what I'm going to wear, just so you have an idea of what people wear. And if you tell any man that who's actually interested in having a relationship with Jesus and actually interested in God, I don't know a single man that's going to be like, oh, well, I only wear shorts, or I don't own any collared shirts, so I don't wear collared shirts to things. I don't know that. Where is that man? And if he exists, that's the problem. Like, the problem is not that we have standards for ourselves and for our men. The problem is that we've created men who actually start to shirk away at standards. But the thing that is so important about this, of why men need to have standards and why I beef with when women get emotional on this topic, is do you know why little boys for Halloween and just in general are wearing police uniforms and military uniforms and they want to be superheroes? It's because men like standards. It's because men like challenge, because men like to test themselves. They like to have something to rise to, right? Why is there this obsession with Navy SEALs? Why is Jocko Willink and David Goggins so popular? I'm trying to tell you. And then when I try to bring it, that same mindset filtered through a Catholic lens into the Catholic world, what do I get? A bunch of pushback from women that say, but it's going to make people feel bad. Oh, and it's too hot and we're too soft and we're too this and we're too that. And we just have to whine our way out of any standard for men. We can't have anything. Anytime that I talk about any ideal, it drives me absolutely insane because you always get this. You always get this pushback that's just like whine, and it's just too hard and it's just too tough and you're just too hard on people and it's just not nice. And I can't freaking stand it. We have men that are too soft. You think about trying to fight a war in today's world with the men that we have. It's terrifying to think about. And it just brings me back to this. I think I'm going to try to read this this quote from JP2 on every podcast I do for the rest of my life. This quote from JP2, a lot of you have heard just the first line, which he says, "It is Jesus that you seek when you dream of happiness. He is waiting for you and nothing else you find satisfies you." But there's further down, this I absolutely loved. He says that it is Jesus who stirs in you the desire to do something great with your lives, the will to follow an ideal, the refusal to allow yourselves to be ground down by mediocrity, the courage to commit yourselves humbly and patiently to improving yourselves and society, making the world more human and more fraternal. That to me is just so unbelievably fire. And it's so awesome to hear JP2 talk about that. That is Jesus that you seek when you desire happiness. It's Jesus when you find that nothing else you find satisfies you. And this, I think, is I don't think he was speaking specifically to men. I'm going to drop my jacket here because there's no AC in my room here. I have no vent in my office. Speaking of still wearing pants and things when it's hot. But it did look good, didn't it? And I wanted to show you guys my $200 jacket for those who say that it's too expensive to dress nicely. Guys, listen to me. This, I think, is a quote that is really made for the modern man today. That when you are chasing all these other things, when you're even, let's say you're just dead inside and you're just going after pornography and video games, then you kind of you kind of do one up and you start to pursue an Andrew Tate type of lifestyle where you at least are trying to get yourself somewhat together, and maybe you just start to care about your fitness and your finances. Then maybe you have more of a conversion to Jordan Peterson, and you're starting to see, if I make my bed in the morning and I clean my room, I'm actually a much better man. And then you start to lead from that, hopefully, into faith. That is the journey, I think, of a lot of modern men, where you can start to say, okay, I've sought everything else out and nothing has satisfied me. It's Jesus that I seek. And it's Jesus that stirs up in me this desire to do something great with my life. It's Jesus that gives me this will to follow an ideal, the refusal to allow myself to be ground down by mediocrity, to be just a casual jackass amongst a million billion other casual jackasses in the world. The courage to commit myself humbly and patiently to improving myself and the world. That comes from God. God sets that fire within us, and it's good for us to have standards. And ladies, I just beg you to stop fighting me when I'm trying to promote standards for men. I don't understand why it's such a beef. It's such a fight all the time to just say, like, men should try harder in life. And they're just like, well, they should be more emotional. It's like, haven't we done enough of that? Not saying that we shouldn't have emotions, not saying that it's good to feel uncomfortable, but sometimes it is for men good to feel uncomfortable. I think it's good for men to go to a gym and feel like, wow, everybody here is more fit than me. I think it's good to be somewhere and be like kind of uncomfortable, be like, wow, I'm kind of underdressed. I should dress nicer next time. Sometimes that conviction can be good. Negative feelings can drive good actions. We don't have to avoid any pain, any discomfort, any challenge. That's not a way to live. And we've been doing that as a church for so long. And now we constantly complain that we have no good men. And then anytime you try to change it, you just get into fights with people. It's incredible. This has changed my life, going back to why I like to dress nice in general. When I was in college, I started to do it. My mom always buys me a bunch of clothes, or at least she used to, for Christmas. And I would start to wear my nicer clothes to school, to class and stuff. And people would make fun of me. But I kind of realized, like, I loved wearing my uniform, and we couldn't wear our uniform all the time. But I had my Army uniform, being an ROTC. And just like the feel of that, I was like, this is awesome. My next best thing was like wearing a shirt like the one I'm wearing now with khaki pants or something and dress shoes to class. And I was like, wow, when I show up dressed like this, I'm more prone to pay attention. I like to dress like this and sit up front in the class. And it was like my grades just consistently improved. I was like a 2.9 student, 3.0 student in high school, and I made dean's list every semester in college. And a big part of that was because I took myself more seriously. And part of taking myself more seriously, you know what it is? It's taking 5 extra minutes in the morning to actually just button my buttons on my shirt instead of just throwing on a t-shirt. That's the other thing that drives me crazy. What if you have kids? What if you have this? What if you have that? It takes me 3 more minutes to wear this than to wear gym shorts and a t-shirt. And let me let you know another secret. I have 3 minutes to spare. And as does every man out there in the world, no matter how many kids you have. Because a polo takes what, 2 more seconds, because you have to do just one button. So what are we talking about? And I can do that button while I'm driving if I have to. It just makes no sense. So that really impacted me, though, just that experience of dressing nicer. Then I would continue to ebb and flow, but I just noticed that throughout my life, as I reflect on my life, that the times where I dressed nicer, I took myself more seriously. I was more productive. I was closer to the Lord. I was honoring God, honoring other people. And so it made a massive difference in my life. And I've had this big conversion to this recently, of just like in the last year or so, like really loving the sports jacket, wearing that more and more as I lecture, and then even just like some random Sundays. And then I would always just wear a collar and have my pants. And then it was like you start to kind of increase this over time. Now, I don't personally like wearing a tie. And I feel my best in what I was just wearing before this, when I had a sports jacket and a button down on. That's where I feel my best, and I love showing up to mass in that. There's times where I'll throw a tie on. Usually that's kind of my upgrade for like an Easter and Christmas or a big solemnity or something like that. But I think it's good to have some type of standard for yourself, and to recognize, like Deion Sanders said, the whole dress good, feel good, play good, of like, what do you feel you're best in? And I just, my challenge that I want to leave you guys with, and I'm not totally finished yet. I have a couple other things. But the challenge that I'm going to end with in this is I just challenge you, men and women out there. If you're a woman out there, and this goes for a lot of moms, this can convict a lot of moms out there. Because I know Emily's found herself in this place too, where you get into the joggers and the yoga pants every day. It's like, just occasionally mix it up and just challenge yourself. I've seen a lot of women and beautiful content of women doing this, moms who challenge themselves for 2 weeks to just dress a little bit nicer. And they're like, it's amazing how much different I feel. One of our favorite accounts, I wish I knew the woman's name. I'll have Emily send me one of her reels and I can share it. But she's like the mom of 4 boys, and she goes over like how they homeschool and do all these different things. And she's just a rock star, dude. She's like seeking excellence personified as a mother. Wakes up at like 5 a.m., does a workout, and she basically says she treats herself like a professional athlete, or a professional that has to perform, right? And she goes to conferences for homeschooling, and she gets up and does her things that she needs to do. And it's amazing to watch how she's structured their life. And it's just, to me, that's the kind of mindset that I want all of us to have. And I think as Catholics, that's what we should have, right? Is that we're going to strive for excellence in everything that we do, not in some of the things, not partially, not sometimes, but we give our all to everything that we do. And we strive for excellence in everything that we do. And so that means leaving the house. That doesn't mean every time I leave the house, I have to leave in a suit and tie, but it does mean that I can have some standard for myself. All right. Well, just thinking about beyond Mass, right? Obviously, Mass is what it is. I think if you're wearing to a funeral, right? This is the thing I also get with people who will say different weather and temperature, whatever. It's like, so you would wear shorts to a funeral? And they'll be like, I remember one girl was like, oh, it's a joke, where I come from, that every time you go to a funeral, there's always some guy in shorts. I'm like, yeah, that guy is like like the clown. That's not like, yeah, like that should be like this guy. I know all the guys who are here out of respect for the deceased and the family have shown up in a suit and tie, except for old Billy Bob over there. Billy Bob always wears shorts. Billy Bob's so funny. And he's wearing his hat inside the church. Billy Bob, he's so crazy. Looks like he hasn't shaved in 5 days. Let's make Billy Bob the standard, because Billy Bob shows up to funerals in shorts. And Billy Bob also showed up to my cousin's wedding in shorts too. Isn't that crazy? Billy Bob, we always laugh. He's so funny. And then he got too drunk and passed out in the, on the side there. But that's just Billy Bob. And it's like, yeah, let's make Billy Bob the standard for everyone. I think that's a great idea. Because there's always some clown that shows up in shorts to a funeral. Let's use that as an excuse to get rid of any type of general rule for men. This is the logic that I hear a lot of times when I'm talking to people. And it's just, yeah, it's tough, man. But I think I just want to clarify there that I think if you're wearing it to a funeral, if you're wearing it to a wedding, Sunday Mass is the same category as those things. It's actually above it. Those are in lower categories, right? Going to a wedding Mass or whatever it is, like the solemnity of Sunday Mass, or the fact that, like, the celebration of Sunday Mass is the peak of your week, is the most important time, right? Like every Sunday is a special celebration. And so it deserves some respect, right? And even if you want to say, okay, like culturally at a wedding, you're going to wear a suit and tie, but at Mass, you're going to wear a sports jacket or pants and a button down, whatever it is. But you're not going to convince me that Sunday Mass is 8 rungs below your cousin's wedding that's outside, who's abandoned the church, and you're going to her wedding in a barn. And you wore a suit jacket for that, but you can't wear a polo and pants for Mass on Sunday? Oh my goodness. Now let's get beyond Mass a little bit, right? Let's go a little bit beyond Mass. The couple that I was not making fun of, but that I shared the reel of recently. I love that I got to talk to that couple. If you saw my stories Wednesday, I think it was, of this past week, and shared this couple that the whole beach vacation thing. She reshared it on her story, that she responded to my story, as did her husband. And what I actually love, I want to give them a shout out, because I talked to the guy, because I looked at their page and they have like 3 kids and she's pregnant, and the kids are like under 5. I'm like, man, they're cranking them out. So I'm like, they're probably Christian. And I think that they were. And I ended up sharing with him kind of what I was talking about with like men dressing nicer for Mass and just kind of in general. And he was like, oh, I'm all for dressing nicely on Sundays. I think you should wear your best clothes on Sundays. And I'm like, dude, even the guy who I was like kind of poking fun at about dressing like a bum on vacation is like, yeah, but at church you dress. I don't even think he's Catholic, but it was awesome. I was like, man, this guy's epic. But absolute legend. I wish I had their account or whatever to give them a shout out. But I'll send them this podcast episode, because I think it'll be important to know that they got a shout out on the pod. But guys, it goes beyond Sunday Mass. So I started with this, talking about the gathering at the grotto last night, our parish event, and just guys looking just absolutely sloppy there. But that's not where it ends, right? It's not just Mass. So you want to talk about date nights, daily wear, casual clothing, events. If you're somebody that takes excellence seriously, I think you need to be intentional with how you leave the house, with how you dress yourself. And if you're going on a date, just like some of the guys who showed up last night, I understand why you're single. That's all I'm going to say there, because I would not recommend somebody going on a second date with you if you showed up to a double date with me and my wife looking like that. So that's beyond Mass. Three reasons to dress better. I think this is something that the Jordan Peterson and Theo Vaughn clip really hit on well. That Theo clip, man, I don't know if you guys saw that one, where Theo's like, I don't trust a man who wears shorts at church, right? Sarah, you saw some of those grottos guys. You know that they were sloppy, man. I was mind blown last night, dude. There was some that were just, it wasn't it. Three reasons why you want to wear nice clothes. You honor yourself, take yourself more seriously. You honor yourself by dressing nicely. You honor other people. This is something that um, Jordan Peterson really hit on in that interview with Matt Fradd, where he was asked about this. And he said, it's actually an honor to other people, right? This is why the Jordan Peterson events, if you've ever been to those or heard about those, you probably know this already. But the when you go to a Jordan Peterson event in person, like a lot of people wear suits and ties, or like the guys dress up, the women are in dresses, like it's a nice event. And part of the reason for that is that's just like it's a cultural thing, right? It's like showing up out of respect for him. You know, he's going to be presenting in a suit and a tie, and so it's just something you do sometimes to respect other people, right? You show up to somebody's event or it's a respect to their wedding. Same thing for the funeral, right? It's like a respect to the family. Like if somebody's hosting a party or a dinner party or something and it's nice, like you wear something decent out of respect for them. I'm showing up to you in your house and to your event, and I'm going to dress decently. I'm going to dress in a presentable way, right? So it honors other people, but it also can honor God, right? We talk about this a lot. Women get this a lot with modesty. We talk about modesty all the time for women. And then it's like, but for men, just like do whatever you want, dude. Nobody cares. Just dress like an absolute bum. It's very perplexing to me. And so that I think is really important to recognize, right? There's three different ways there where you have three different reasons why you should dress nicer: to honor yourself, to honor God, and honor other people. Then I wanted to give some clarifications, right? And so when you're dressing for vacation, I think you could say there's a difference there, right? So I think, you know, my flying thing, I still think you still wear pants on to the airport, but I think you can make a reasonable exception to wear shorts if you're traveling to like Hawaii or Florida or something like that, right? You're going into vacation mode. I think it's okay to drop a step down. I'm all for like a casual Friday where you're kind of, you know, relaxing a little bit. And then like Sundays and like when I'm just at the house, like I'm in gym shorts and a t-shirt most of the time. So I'm on the floor playing with the kid, rolling around in the grass with him and the dog and all that stuff. So you don't have to dress nice all of the time, but you can have still some standards for yourself when you're leaving. Another important clarification that I wanted to make is difference between Sunday mass and daily mass. I personally do make a difference between the two. I mean, the church generally does, right? They're not considered the exact same. I still like to, the way I describe this to people for me is that if I know that I'm going to daily mass, I will typically wear pants. Now, those pants could be jeans, which I typically would not wear jeans unless they're like dress jeans to Sunday. And even then, I don't wear a lot of denim to Sunday mass. I don't think it's the end of the world though if they're like dress nice jeans, but I'm not wearing like ripped jeans. I don't own ripped jeans, but I'm not wearing ripped jeans to Sunday mass. I think that you still have to have some standards in your denim. But there's some nice jeans out there which can be used with like a sports jacket and stuff. So that's why I don't want to totally denounce that personally. But daily versus Sunday, I'm still going to wear some pants. I'm going to have some standards. I'm not going to show up in gym shorts and a t-shirt if I know that I'm going. Now, if I'm leaving the gym, especially back when I was single, this doesn't happen as much now because I'm married. We have like a lot, you know, I'm accountable to somebody else. But if I was leaving the gym and or on my way to the gym and I'm like, oh, I can make it to mass on my way and I'm in what I'm in, I'm still going to go to mass, right? So I'm still going to, you know, kind of swing by and go to mass, you know, and do the whole thing typically. But I think the difference is if I know that I'm going to be a little bit more intentional. So it's the vast majority of the time you know that you're going. And on Sunday, you should always have a plan that you're going to mass, right? I've started making it more of a priority even to where Saturday evening I'm picking out my Sunday clothes. If I need to iron or, you know, what's the word I'm looking for, team? Not miss them. I don't know why I can't think of it. Steam them. If I need to steam my clothes or whatever, then I'll steam my clothes the night before. And that way I have what I'm wearing ready. And that's just, again, a sign of intentionality, right? You can also have differences based on culture. So my man Ime, I don't know if he's going to watch this or not, but we have this guy, I forget what country in Africa he's from, but he shows up to mass. And last weekend we were messaging on Instagram about it when I was talking about it. But he showed up, dude's just fresh in this like African styled suit kind of thing, right? And it's like, yes, that's different than what I wear or what somebody else might wear. Or somebody was like, oh, wait till you hear that men wear kilts. It's like mostly men wear kilts because that's like kind of their dress. Like I know a guy that wore a kilt to his wedding, and it wasn't to be a jackass. It was because like in Scotland, that's like a form of formal attire, right? Like I can respect differences in cultures while recognizing that in our culture, you wearing shorts is a casual look, right? Somebody sent me the picture of what's his name, McAfee, his wedding. Dude wore shorts and like a suit jacket and tie, and I mean, you wouldn't talk about something that I think looks absolutely stupid 100% of the time. It's wearing a sports jacket or a suit jacket with shorts. That I think is a really, really bad look. And if you wanna hold up to me this, I don't know if this friend was like doing it this way, but kind of showing me as a rebuttal or just what some people do. The fact that Pat McAfee went to his wedding in shorts and a suit jacket. Pat McAfee is the definition of like what I don't want to be. Right? I mean, just like a modern day American man, that is just kind of like I don't know. I don't need to judge and attack his character, but he is not somebody I'm going to hold up as like this pinnacle of like what a man should be in modern day society, right? And so, I mean, he would be in the category of like, to me, he's very different than Andrew Tate, but still very problematic in a lot of his beliefs and things like that. A childish man, in my humble opinion, from what I've seen and know about the guy. I don't love him, and so I'm not going to change my view on dress and challenging men based on Pat McAfee. I can tell you that, but there is some allowance for differences in culture and in different circumstances and things like that. All right, so my last couple things here. I'll close with the challenge. I want to just give revisit the practical tips. That's just guys. It doesn't cost a lot of money to do this. You can get some shorts. You can go to places like Old Navy app. I'm not a big thrift guy. I know some people would say you should go thrift, but Old Navy and Gap, guys, I'm telling you, if you go right now, and I don't, this probably it might be true by next week because it's probably like a 4th of July thing. I got a text message earlier from the Banana Republic like factory. Now I love Banana Republic. But if you go on the factory for these things, like factory or like Polo Factory or Macy's, like the box stores, especially online, you can find some unbelievable deals. And you should also shop the deals, right? Like Labor Day, Memorial Day, July 4th, Black Friday, you're gonna have big deals and discounts. And so utilize those times at these already discounted stores, and that's where you can buy. If you're getting gifts from people, tell people you want gift cards to these places, right? That's what I do. My in-laws just got me a gift card for Banana Republic for Father's Day, and so I love that. And I use that to buy clothes. And I save it for the July 4th sales, which now there's like 50% off a ton of stuff on Banana Republic Factory. And so you can Google these sales and find things that are not that expensive. So don't give me the excuse that money is the reason why. You can slowly add and build your wardrobe over time. And you want to find things that are more timeless. Don't get these really loud and ridiculous shirts that aren't going to be cool next summer, right? You want to get things that are going to be timeless. This shirt I can wear for the next decade, right? And I'm going to keep it and it's going to look great for a long time. And so think about that and start to try to plan your wardrobe. I literally have notes. Like I'm a big like organized guy. I love notes and Google Sheets and all that stuff. And so I keep a running kind of wish list as well. And so I can give people gift ideas that way if they want to actually buy me the clothes. But I have this running wish list of, okay, I want to have Chris Quinn put it in the comments here on Instagram earlier. But you can find this if you just Google the 5 suits a man should own. Steve Harvey, you'll find the video, and it's awesome. Steve Harvey basically says that every man should own a black suit, a gray suit, a blue suit, like a navy suit. He says a cream suit and a brown suit. I don't like to wear brown, so I wouldn't do brown. So I did like on my list, I have like a checkered one instead. And then for me, I also have a dream of like having like 5 sports jackets that I love. I'd love to get up to 10, 12, over time. But currently, like my goal is like 5 sports jackets that I love. And then he says you should have 2 white shirts, 2 cream shirts, and 2 blue shirts, 2 powder blue shirts. And then he's like, you can make 75 suits between all of those, right? You can mix and match because your blue pants go with your khaki jacket and vice versa, right? Your black coat can go with the brown pants and etc. Right? You can mix and match these things. And so you don't have to have a million different things to have options and to mix it up, right? So you can start to kind of put things together that way. You can get a pair of black shoes and a pair of brown shoes, and that goes with all the things that you already own. And so you start to build this out over time. And I literally have a notes list and check marks next to what I own and what I don't own. And I kind of prioritize and say, wow, I'd love to have this $1,200 Ralph Lauren gray suit, but then here's another option for a navy suit that I want to get that's just $350 or $400 or whatever it might be, right? So you can have different levels of things, but it's not that hard to just step your game up just a little bit. And my last thing is that challenge again. I challenge you to, if you're really tough, do it for a month of dressing nicer. If you're feeling soft, do it just for a week of just dress nicer. Even if you work from home, whatever it is, dress a little bit more nicely. St. Francis de Sales says, never let yourself appear slovenly or disorderly, right? This is a great quote from him. He says, study to be neat and let nothing about you be slovenly or disorderly. He says, it is an affront to those with whom you associate to be unsuitably dressed. but avoid all conceits, vanities, finery, and affectation. To me, that means, yeah, you're not going to dress like, Soldier Boy would out here with just blinged out and all these different things. Like, you don't need all that. But this nice striped shirt, this is not what he's talking about when he says avoid vanities. This is what a lot of people will say, well, it's vain. It's like, this is not what he was referring to. Is giving some effort is not vain. Another great thing that St. Francis hits on that I want to share with you is he says there's three main things to consider when you're talking about propriety in dress. He says material, fashion, and cleanliness. As to cleanliness, it should be invariable. You should always be clean. He says for cleanliness, as far as it is possible, you should avoid all dirt and untidiness. And he says that outward purity is, as it were, a type of that which is within, right? It reflects your inner purity. And then I want to talk about just a couple other things that St. Francis mentions here, because I thought this was also really good. And this is something that somebody else shared with me that they heard from a Spanish priest, which I think comes from St. Jose Maria Escriva ultimately. It says that St. Louis summed up, so I think King of France, St. Louis, summed up in all, saying that everyone should dress according to his station. Everyone should dress according to his station. And so what that somebody mentioned on Instagram that a Spanish priest told them is that men, husbands and fathers should wear pants. And generally maybe we strive for, and the trad community does this really well. And they have their problems, and I criticize them when they should be criticized, and I praise them when they should be praised, but they do this really well. And I'm not somebody that believes that women should exclusively wear dresses, but I think it's great to wear a dress on Sunday for Mass. I think it's great to wear a skirt for Sunday for Mass, or for some of these other things, just dressing nicely. I don't think that, just like I don't think men should show up to Gathering at the Grotto in gym shorts, I don't think women should show up in leggings. So I think it can go both ways, right? You can wear nicer things than that. This not trying thing, that was kind of one of my criticisms of that reel that I mentioned earlier. It's just like we have to stop acting like not trying is cool. We're not in middle school anymore, right? So like when you get made fun of in like an inner city community for doing your homework, like we're adults now. It's not cool. It's not fun to not do your taxes, right? It's not cool to not have a budget and just get immensely into debt. Let's stop making it cool to not try. And actually, no, it's not cool to not try. We're not even making it because it's impossible once you're like your brain's past like age 11 and you're not an idiot anymore. It's impossible to convince adults that it's actually cool to not try and just be sloppy. You see these people, right? Like you see people who just like look like they're homeless, but they're not. Like there's nothing cute or redeeming about it. And so being one step above that in your dress and appearance is not cute or cool either. With that being said, I have to go get my hair cut because I get my hair cut every 2 to 3 weeks, like every man should, in my humble opinion. Once a month max. You should get your hair cut about as often as you go to confession. Clean your soul, clean up that neck. Even if it's just a cleanup. I can't stand seeing guys with just freaking furry necks. It drives me nuts. But that's a song for another time, my friends. That's going to be it for today. And, God loves you, as do I. And not only does God love you when you're dressed like a bum, but if you love God in return, you shouldn't dress like a bum anymore. That's the important difference. Is yes, God loves you even if you dress like a jackass. But God loves you and you respond to God's love with your actions, with your love for other people, with your love for yourself, with the way that you show up and you reverence God in your worship, in your dress, in your language, in the way you love other people, in the way you forgive. All of that, it flows out. It is a virtuous thing to dress nicely. It's a virtuous thing to care about how you look. It's a virtuous thing to suffer in the heat, knowing that it's hot outside, but because you're doing it for God and for other people. There's goodness in that. Contrary to popular opinion, just being comfortable all the time is not good. We don't have a problem with comfort. Your life is not in need of more comfort, unless you are actually David Goggins. And if you're listening, David Goggins, you should repent and believe in the gospel and convert and become Catholic, if this were to hit your ears. But most of us do not have a deficiency in comfort. We're already too comfortable. So stop telling men to be more comfortable. Stop telling your sons it's okay to just be comfortable and everything and just constantly pursue comfort. They actually don't want that. It's not what they want. It's not what they need. It's not what their masculine heart desires. They want to be challenged. We want to have something to strive for. We want to have heroes. We want to have ideals to get after. And for men, it's good to feel that you're short of the ideal and to believe, as I'm telling you, that you're capable of rising to it. You're capable of being better. You're capable of dressing nicer, of being a better man, of being a better husband, of being a better father, eventually being a great husband and father. of being a better boyfriend, of being a better Christian. You're capable of these things. And that's why I tell you this. This is why I have this podcast. This is why I do this content. I could be at the pool with my wife and son right now. Instead, I'm spending time on a Friday afternoon recording this. Why? Because I believe in you, because I think that this matters. I think that you matter. I think that your life matters, and what you do with it matters. And as I said at the very beginning, reading that quote from JP2, if you feel this stirring inside of you, feel conviction. JP2 says it's Jesus that stirs in you the desire to do something great with your life, the will to follow an ideal, the refusal to allow yourself to be ground down by mediocrity, the courage to commit yourself humbly and patiently to improving yourself and society. And so I want that for you. I want that for us. If there's anything I can do to help you, let me know. All right. God bless you all. Until next time, be your best.